You're listening to Chaos Public Radio.
Good evening and welcome back to Gender Non-Conforming Chat. I am Mary Jane Blank, your host, and today I have with me Mayim at Rainbow Mayim on Twitter. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to start out with very difficult questions that are very general. And then we'll sort of we'll go more specific. I don't have a lot of questions in general. This is very casual.
Okay.
How would you describe your gender? Or what is your gender journey? Like, you can, whatever you want. Where you are now or like how you got to where you are.
Okay, so initially I identified as a transgender male, and I sort of had like a mini transition in which I cut my hair and demanded that people called me Ein, and which is the most ridiculous name I've come up with yet. But
Hey,
that's
yeah,
part of the journey.
it really is. Again, a very relatable thing. Definitely.
And I bought men's clothes, and my grandma would buy me men's clothes, and she was very supportive of my journey. And eventually I figured out that I didn't want to be male or female, and I found out what being genderqueer was.
Awesome.
And I'm kind of just femme but devoid of gender.
Sure.
And
So how do you feel about gender expression then? Or like, do you feel like that was like a separate journey from like your just like gender? Because to me they're kind of separate.
I kind of keep gender expression and gender like itself very separate, because I am decidedly genderqueer, but I also decidedly feel femme. Like,
Okay.
I love skirts and I love pink and I love having pink hair, but these things are not gendered to me. But I know
Okay.
that other people perceive them as gendered and perceive me as female because of them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So yeah, pretty similar kind of like I was the first trans people I met were like a group of like genderqueer like punks and anarchists, and so like that was exactly kind of the environment I was introduced to like being trans into. So yeah, I feel you there. Where as well going through being exclusively genderqueer, also with pink hair, um, myself.
Yeah.
Um, and like, yeah, that was a big part of it was sort of this detachment from it, especially because of how I would be gendered, because I'm AMAB, and so it's much harder for me to like come off as androgynous, even though I have for a lot of my life. So you describe yourself as genderqueer in particular? Is there like how do you feel about non-binary, like for yourself or like in general as a term?
Well, for me, I consider non-binary under like the trans flag.
Hmm.
And I consider myself non-binary, but I also consider genderqueer a more specific like concentration of non-binary.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, as I said, I also kind of identify as genderqueer. I sort of identify it as like my gender is a queerness, like or like it's really hard to describe, especially for me being both genderqueer and a woman. So it's like so I don't identify as non-binary myself anymore, but like I clearly fall outside of the binary, obviously, but like it's a harder, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like this stuff, an identity is not so concrete, it's pretty fluid just naturally.
I found this one term that I'm really experimenting with lately called femme sorry,
Femme sorry?
where it's femme sorry based on Mass Effect.
Okay.
Be sorry in
On
Mass
Femme
Effect.
Shep, okay.
Okay, and it's the idea of being non-binary, but also enjoying and embracing all things feminine.
Okay.
And I'm like, I like that. That's a tidy little term.
That's great.
Yeah, I came across it on Facebook recently, and I was like, that's the coolest term I've ever heard. That's
sure.
very me.
Yeah. No, that's another cool part. Yeah, is finding those things where it's just like you've had this feeling, or I've, or like I've had this feeling my whole life, and then suddenly I hear a term or like meet somebody and it clicks into place, like, oh, this is what I've been feeling. Like this, or like, yeah, like this describes me really well.
No, sorry, I was because I felt completely not cis, and that's where I was, just not cis, because I
Okay,
didn't know that non-binary thing.
for sure, for sure. Oh, interesting. Oh, right, right, right. So that's how
And
you did you identify as transmasculine or just like as a trans man? Like you did not identify with masculinity, but with manhood?
with I'm not exactly sure because I did not explore that much so much because I was really young at the time, and I was just like I just feel very male,
Hmm.
and I wasn't really enough into it to like explain how I felt, just that I felt decidedly not female.
Okay, okay, yeah. So like you said, yeah, you got this feeling of like, yeah, non-cisness. Just like I know I'm not that, but I don't know what I am. Um, Strangely enough, on a related note, so how do you think about your sexuality or sexuality in general?
I've been experimenting with the terminology for that. My partner introduced me to something called ace flux, so I
Okay.
consider myself an biromantic ace flux.
All right. All right. That's rad. Um, I always appreciate folks who recognize the difference between sexual and romantic attraction. Uh, that's definitely a big part for me too, where I'm a biromantic, or sorry, yeah, a bisexual lesbian. So, because I'm only interested in having serious relationships with like women, and like I'm sure there are non-binary people who could kind of fit, like you say, like folks who are kind of like on the feminine spectrum that might sort of be there as well, but like, so it might not be womanhood necessarily, but anyway, because I don't believe gender is that much to do with attraction, but whatever. That's just me.
Yeah,
Um, so, uh, okay. Okay. So you consider yourself ace flux. So you don't see yourself as necessarily demisexual. You see yourself as like a little more uh asexual than that.
yeah. Asexual with the occasional urge is how I've been putting it.
Okay, right, right, right. Cause yeah, but yeah, it makes sense. Cause like there's how you feel and there's what you do, and like both of them can be how you describe your sexuality, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, all right. This is gonna be. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me ask you another sexuality-based question. Sorry. I'm not super prepared, and this is kind of, like I said, the casualness is really important to me, but also I'm just bad at the stuff, so whatever. Anyway, how do you feel about the Kinsey scale, or like those kind of ways of defining like sexuality? Do you feel like they can apply, or are they too simplistic?
I feel like they absolutely provide a base for a lot of things, and that a lot of people find comfort in having a finite number or color or something that they feel identifies them, and they're not comfortable with the vagueness and the vastness that is just being queer.
Yeah, and because there is a comfort in being able to, because like it's not just right the quantifying like you described, but it's also that feeling of like I'm not just a three, I am one of the threes of the world. It's like uh there's definitely this sense of like that's sort of the purpose of a lot of these
Yeah,
identities for me as well. Those labels is sort of like um yeah, identifying with like other genderqueer people, identifying with other trans people, things like that. Like these are important parts of my identity, not just because they're intrinsically part of who I am, but because yeah, they can facilitate these relationships with similar
yeah,
people. This is such a random question now. Are you in the States or
I am in Indiana.
yeah, because it seems like the question of like the word, like the issues around the word queer, like it seems like in yeah, in the US, like it's been such a part of like our like the queer culture and like the like queer liberation stuff. Like it's interesting hearing people from other parts of the world who have like take issue with it, or like things people who say like they've only heard it as a slur, but then like I thought about it for myself, like, what is it about the term? Because I've never heard it as a slur myself. I've always lived in pretty like sheltered places, relatively, can, as far as that goes. So, it was always like queer studies department was the context I heard the term. It's very different.
I've always heard it in an academic context.
Hmm.
So it's always been like a very academic word to me. And
Yeah.
been like, yeah, queer. This is a very all-encompassing, very friendly word.
Right. Yeah. No, it's just yeah, it's fascinating for that reason too. Like a great example of this is I can look over to my bookshelf and I have a book called Queer Looks about queer cinema. You know, it's like no problem with that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
that's
feel
really
like as the queer community moves away from terms like girl and boy, it's more important to have terms like queer. Um, like I have a book called Girl Sex on in my bookshelf that's about cis and trans sexual relations,
okay.
but it sounds very cis by the name. You wouldn't expect there to be um, diagrams of different genitalia explaining, this is how you do this for different people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's like I expect it to be written by either cosmopolitan writers or men. Like, but then it's like actually turns out to be good. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
Damn. Yeah, I really feel you there. Actually, like queer, like interestingly, like I have not made this connection until now. Like both queer and genderqueer, like I think that's part of why genderqueer really feels so good for me too. Because when I first heard it, it was more like being used like non-binary kind of because it was kind of an umbrella term at the time. At least like in UC Santa Cruz or whatever, in like the anarchist scene of Santa Cruz. So take that with a grain of salt. Um, and so, yeah, there's this freedom in both genderqueer and queer, yeah, like you say, where you can be fluid. There's nothing, you don't have to pin yourself down in any particular, like, expression or mode. Like, I just know that I'm attracted to queer people, you know? That's like a consistent thing that has
this
always been
the
true. That just gave me uh, another question I'm just interested in, just because in my last interview with someone who has never identified as straight. So I'm just curious, did you ever see yourself as cis or as straight?
honestly, I I'm AVAB and I knew I liked girls like the minute I was born.
Okay.
I think I joked about being straight in like middle school, but like I don't think I ever identified as straight. I've always identified as sort of bisexual or a lesbian or on the female appreciating spectrum.
For sure. And so, yeah, was it the kind of thing where, like, you were kind of told it was like, like, how was it, like, when you were growing up? Was it like you felt like, why is this wrong? Or why is this treated as wrong? Or was it like more like never spoken about?
Honestly, what my dad put it is very unique in that at least you won't get pregnant because he did not I recognize trans. So he was
Right.
just like, at least you won't get pregnant, and I was like, cool.
Right. Yeah.
And he was very supportive because he's always had positive relationships with bisexual and queer women,
Awesome.
and that part of me he was very supportive.
Right. Yeah, I have the same kind of experience where like the once you start going into gender nonconformity and like genderqueer, non-binary, that's when like my parents as well supportive until like that point where like I like fundamentally don't understand this. And like we have had arguments about it. Oh God.
My
Um
my dad support ended when the trans flag went up, and that's fine. It's not like a huge loss.
okay, for sure.
Um, he used some slurs about trans people in Thailand in
Oh
the
God.
final argument.
Oh, jeez.
um, because he got mugged by a trans person in Thailand, and then he decided all trans persons were evil. Okay.
When you need an excuse, having a bad experience is a good one.
I mean, getting mugged, I guess, is an excuse.
But yeah,
Um,
but the point being, yeah, is that like the feeling was already there, clearly.
yeah. And he was never super supportive of my gender nonconformity as a child.
Right.
He never really supported my name changes. Um, he was supportive of me liking girls, but that's about it.
Right. Fuck. Yeah, it's a sad. I'm really sorry to hear that. It's a sad story, and I feel like really similar to like how transphobia in America kind of has grown in the last few years, where it's like a lot of people were like, I don't know what this is, but now that I see it, I know that I hate it. That's sort of how it's
Yeah,
felt like since like 2014, 2015. Like as it's like trans visibility has gotten that like, we there's more trans people in movies, and also we can't like legally can't go to the bathroom in certain states.
yeah, which is very frustrating. Also, because as a non-binary person, I honestly just go into whatever bathroom has a shorter line,
Oh, nice. Okay.
and that's the end for me.
Nice, nice. That's funny. So you share an
But
experience.
it definitely makes other people.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, um, no, I was just gonna say it's kind of cool. Again, very interesting, very different experiences, but we do share that as well, having been in both bathrooms and possibly like within minutes of each other. Like I've definitely been there too, and I've had that look actually when I was I dressing more femme, but before I took hormones, I was in like the men's room, and a guy actually walked in and was like, "Oh, am I in the right room?" And I'm like, "Oh no, no, you are. I'm just insecure."
My favorite thing with that is I was in the men's room walking out, and a man was walking in, and he went, "This is the men's room, isn't it?" And I went, "Yeah," and then I kept walking, just very decidedly in a femme.
Hell yeah. Having been to both, how fucking disgusting are men's rooms? Anyway, I'm a 1990s comedian. Um,
Speaking as someone who cleaned both bathrooms and used both bathrooms, women's restrooms are cleaner,
hmm.
especially if you do not give a single care about feminine hygiene products. Sorry, menstrual products.
Oh,
Sometimes my terminology is a little off.
for sure, for sure.
Menstrual
I got
products.
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you don't care about those, like, the women's bathroom is so much cleaner.
Right. Yeah, just from like an aesthetic perspective, like pretty much, like that was what I noticed. Like I had that one moment where, because I had only like a very brief time where I used both restrooms, and like I just had that moment where I used a women's room at one place and then a men's room at another, and it was just like such a different look. But yeah, but in those little metal trash cans or whatever whatever they got, you know, there's a whole nother story, right?
Yeah. And, like, if you care about that, then I guess the women's room is dirtier, but, like, if I don't.
No, I agree. It actually does not add up to being dirtier for that reason too. Yeah, it's like there isn't literal piss on the floor. You know? It's a low bar, but they meet it.
I've had male coworkers complain about the bathroom because of them in a bag. You just move a smaller bag into the trash bag. It's fine.
Hmm.
And they're like railing about how the women's restroom is so much dirtier, and I'm like, I cleaned up literal poop off the floor not half an hour ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah. Oh god. Or jizz, like my friend had that happen once cuz she works at like a fast food place, and they have like a single stall restroom and they clean jizz off the floor. That's the worst. But yeah, you're not gonna usually find that in the women's
Ugh.
restroom.
Not usually. One time, my friend who worked as a janitor did find a dildo, but that was a one-off situation.
Whoa! No! Okay, I found like used condoms in parking lots, but a fucking dildo? Holy shit.
I used it,
Well, oh yeah.
like visibly used.
Oh god. Oh god. Good
And she
story,
was like, "Do I
biohazard.
get biohazard for this?" Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty bad. What the fuck? Like, what kind of place was this, if I may ask?
It was
What? What are people getting up to in that Walmart? What the fuck? I won't
funniest
lie.
part is that she would have had to bring the toy in, use it, and then leave it there,
Mm-hmm.
which is the most bizarre part for me.
Yeah, it's the circumstances. Cause like, dildos ain't cheap. Like, it's not something you generally casually take with you nor leave somewhere.
So like that was an interesting story I heard because I just like get this message ping from my best friend she's like, "Guess what I just found in the bathroom?"
Yeah, you'll never guess. It's like, is this a BuzzFeed article for my friend?
Yeah.
God. That is definitely the wildest thing I've ever heard in a restroom, to be fair. Fuck. Sorry, as a writer as well, this is just like very inspiring to me. I'm just like, how did that get there? And I'm like, I could write about it. But anyway, that's not, I should not be doing that in my head right now. Anyway. Okay, and this is now going to be kind of weird just because. So, you said you're watching Star Trek. How familiar are you with Star Trek? Like with the Next Generation?
I am familiar, but right now, okay, so we started with TOS and we moving through the timeline, and now we're on Voyager. We're
Oh,
about halfway through Voyager.
oh wow. Okay. So you watched most of the good ones. All right, got you. Confirmed good. I can't say for Discovery. If that is that the show. Yeah, I can't speak for that one. Um.
I have not watched it. One of my partners says it's kind of eh.
Hmm. Yeah. For some reason, it seems like they don't really get what Star Trek is about anymore. It seems like the new movies kind of have that vibe where it's like there's nothing Star Trek about this. Like it's entertaining, I guess, but like as a Star Trek fan, doesn't do anything for me.
I appreciate the reboot movies because they got me back into Trek.
Mm.
They meant, oh yeah, this is totally weird and wrong, and I want to know exactly why. It's actually what my thought was.
Damn,
Um,
that's fascinating. That is like the like best response to like Into Darkness I've ever heard. So, did you grow up with it?
and
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I did. I grew up as a Trekkie.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are both Trekkies.
Ooh,
My aunt's a Trekkie. Just most of my family are Trekkies.
amazing. So yeah, so you like you watched it from basically like when you were born until like you got to like a certain point. Like it was a big part of your childhood?
Yeah. I had the biggest crush on Spock. I still have the biggest crush on Spock.
That's fair.
Um,
That's fair. Ugh, Spock is the best.
and most of them watching with my parents was catching random syndicated episodes, and my mom explaining what's happening. But
Hmm.
it was really nice.
Absolutely. No, I had the same kind of experience where I was born like the year after Next Generation started airing, and so my mom watched literally every episode while it aired. So I probably saw every episode of Next Generation like when it aired. And then I've watched it several times since then, but I did get this one vibe once when I like went back and like, okay, what's the first episode I could have seen in my lifetime? And I got a weird vibe. Like I'm like, I feel like I did see this before I could create memories. Like I don't know how, but like I definitely saw this.
I think my earliest episode I remember is TOS, the episode where the Pon Far episode,
Oh shit.
where Kirk and Spock are going at each other. And that is
Mhm.
the earliest one I remember.
That is amazing. That is also yes, solidified like that episode probably created fan fiction as we know it today, basically.
arguably the very first slash fiction was Spurk,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and yeah, part of that, like, yeah, is that the Star Trek fandom was like the first model of like fandom as we know it today. So like a lot of that stuff kind of was popularized through that fandom. Like actors making the convention
Yeah.
circuit.
And the coolest thing for me is to bring religion into it, is to see a Jewish man as a sex pot,
Mm-hmm.
and that being established, especially in that episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, and it's like so set up in the
Like,
show. This is Shatner, right? Or is it Spock you're talking
no,
about?
Shatner is also Jewish, but Spock is also Jewish.
Okay, okay.
They're both Jewish.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I was gonna say they set it up in the show as like unquestionable. It's like Kirk just is sexy, and then like yeah, if you're into Spock, which I agree completely, tall, funny, nearly emotionless, perfect guy. Not really, but he's really good.
Forgot. The worst possible, emotionally devastating. The only thing you could do worse is date Garrick.
Oh
Um,
God, yes, yes, yeah. Poor Julian. He basically does. He basically has like that episode where he gets led on like a wild goose chase, or like gets trapped in Garrick stuff. That's exactly what it would be like to date him.
I feel like he and Julian and Garrick really go well with each other because they intellectually challenge each other, and am into that. But I think anybody else dating Garrick would have a bad time.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, and it doesn't go great. For it doesn't really go great for Bashir anyway. Like he gets to a point where he learns too much, and Garrick is just I'm sorry, it's been too longer since I've watched it, so like I'm sorry that it's a little more vague my recollection, but like where he like Garrick like gets back into like the secret police or whatever, and basically he's like, this is who I really am, Julian. Like you have to accept that I both am your great coffee friend and I'm a heartless murderer. And Julian's like, well, shit. I never considered this.
Yeah,
Conspiracy
and like
theories. Oh, go ahead.
that's definitely something. That's how the episode goes. I've watched it pretty recently, but he's like, yeah, you have to accept that I'm in duality situation, and that I'm not just a tailor, but also I'm just a tailor if anyone asks.
Yeah, right. I'm a tailor, wink, wink. A funny thing that like that relationship and of course the Kirk slash Spock brings up is like how queerness relates to Star Trek. So that's kind of why I brought it up. Not I wasn't actually thinking about those relationships, but I was thinking about a specific episode. But but yeah, that actually is a pretty common theme where there's like these close relationships where often yeah, two men often like love each other and they have like a complicated relationship, and it's like, you feel like they could be dating, like Kirk and Spock, who clearly love each other, no matter what, like
I
romantic you want to read into it.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
personally ship Quark and Odo.
Quark and
That's
Odo.
that's my OTP.
Quark and Odo, that is a good OTP, especially earlier Odo. Like the beginning
Yeah,
of the show, Quark and Odo, absolutely. Fuck, that's a good one.
that is my OTP. That's I love their relationship. I'm constantly like they're boyfriends. They are boys who are friends and they kiss.
Yeah. No, right. It has that kind of thing where it's like during the day they are antagonists, and then at night they're boyfriends. Like, cause like you're right. Like Odo shows up at Quark's constantly just to like mess with him, but often it's like not too much either. Like it's like yeah, I'm watching you, Quark, and he's like, oh, I bet you are, Odo. Like, damn, I never thought about this, but now the possibilities. Yeah, for me, I think it's B'Elanna Torres and Captain Janeway is a good. I think is one of my OTPs for sure.
I've only recently been introduced to that OTP and I'm into it. But
Yeah,
also because I'm into antagonizing couples, I'm into B'Elanna and Seven.
yes, I was gonna say B'Elanna and Seven as well. I like they're great as well for the same kind of reasons, where they're both like scientists with emotional problems, basically. I guess that's an archetype that I
Right.
enjoy. Yeah, and I just also feel like B'Elanna doesn't. Or sorry, how far are you into Voyager? I'm not gonna spoil it, but like,
I am about Oh, God, I don't know exactly how many episodes I'm in because I forget
Oh,
because I just binge it and binge it and binge it.
oh, same. Yeah, I was just asking
Um,
like season, like clearly post four, but like,
but we just watched the episodes in Jatal.
okay, okay. Well, yeah. So seven's on the show.
You know, the one we're not supposed to talk about. Yeah, seven's on the show already.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, no, because I just feel like Balana doesn't get enough, honestly. Like Balana Torres and Jadzia Dax, and like they just kind of get shafted. They really don't get the plot lines that like they're such interesting characters. They just do not get like the plot lines to support them. You know, like Balana in the first season like has
Yeah.
so many good episodes.
And then they make her Tom's girlfriend and she just gets sidelined so hard.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
it's
it really bothers me because she's one of
yeah, right? And like she's one of the perfect characters. Like if I were so I play D&D. I don't know if you're a D&D or like most folks like us nerdy trans people, but
I have
okay, good.
I play 3.5, 5.0 and Pathfinder.
Okay, okay. Oh wow, you got diversity. I'm just a 5e player, but also funny enough, I got a Star Trek role playing game book. So, I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
But yeah, in but if Voyager, if the premise of Voyager was a campaign I was playing in, B'Elanna Torres is like the character I would create. She's perfect for the setting. And yet,
Yeah.
once she can become like romantic sideline like that's where it feels like I actually don't know because there are women who wrote for the show but the main showrunners were men, and that's where I feel like it really comes out for me is in the B'Elanna and Tom relationship. You know, it just like because yeah, she gets kind of shunted, but also like she's seen as like kind of a nag even when Tom is supposed to be in the wrong. It's weird.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. And she's supposed to be honestly, she's a Latina trope. If you watch other
Oh
sitcoms and stuff like
shit.
that, she's a Latin.
Holy shit, yeah, absolutely.
She's the spicy can turned into a family woman nag, and it's super irritating to see.
Damn. Yeah, absolutely. Fuck. I hadn't even thought of it that way, but it's so true because there are so many tropes that she could fit into. Like, this is where science fiction gets away with a lot because, like, she could fit into a few tropes. They're all bad, but, but yeah. Like, when you look at it from that angle, it's like, shit. That's exactly what she's like. And, like, the conflict she has, too. Oh my god. This is a film school essay waiting to be written right now.
Belana Torres and Latinx racism,
Mm-hmm.
the essay.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Also, we were frustrated with one episode where she can't pronounce Corolla or whatever the fucking the car he has. This isn't Mexican, it's a Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Like her last name's Torres.
Right.
When I realized like she's,
Yeah, no, and she
I
was
realize there are people who are of Spanish descent or Mexican descent that can't speak Spanish, but like
but they've usually heard it.
if
Like
they're gonna lean so hard into the Latina trope, she could at least pronounce the word.
yeah, exactly. Cuz like
Sorry, what were you saying?
oh no, sorry, no worries, no worries. No, yeah, cuz they lean into those like the tropes with Chakotay. Like in the beginning they go actually too hard and it's actually very cringy to watch the first like the pilot episode of Voyager cuz like half of his lines are just like, "Oh, this is my ancient medicine kind of thing." And you're just like, "Okay." And Tom it, like has some weird like native racism against him too. It's all yeah. It's a very interesting like oh 1996, but today's not better unfortunately. But at the time I felt
It's not
optimistic.
better, but at least it's slightly better in later seasons, but they're still pretty racist,
Yes.
which feels very um, anti the theme of Star Trek because the very first um, TOS has as much diversity as he was allowed to air.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Neoda personally knew Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
Like it's
No, it's an amazing story. Have you seen the documentary Trekkies? well, I guess there's two of them. Fuck. That the woman who played Tasha Yar made?
I have not.
Okay, well, there's a great story in one of them. They're made like a decade apart, by the way, so like it's really fascinating um, to watch. But because she follows up on some of the stories, but she gets a really interesting interview with Nichelle Nichols, who she describes the story of like she was thinking about quitting Star Trek, and a person comes in and she's like, "Oh, someone wants to see you," and she's like, "Okay, another fanboy," and it's Martin Luther King Jr., and he basically convinces her to stay on the show because of how important it is. And then, like, when you hear Whoopi Goldberg being like, that's, oh, that's like me, that's someone like me, and then she becomes an actress, and then Lupita Nyong'o, like, is inspired by that, and it's just, like, how important it really is, you know?
And just representation in media, and especially like Hikaru Sulu appearing
Yes!
so quick, so soon after Japanese internment,
Yeah.
that it's just so important that visitation occurs.
Yes, yes, no, and I love how they, like, clearly, I think, like, the original series, I think part of the reason the original series avoids some of those pitfalls, weirdly enough, is I don't think the characters were written with race in mind. I think those were just added later, because, like, there's a lot of stuff I don't think they would have done in the 90s or today that, like, was not a problem. Like, in The Naked Now, I think is the name of the episode, where he's, like, shirtless with his, like, sword out, and he, like, grabs Ahura, and he's like, "Come with me, fair maid," and she's like, "I'm neither, but okay." Like, I'm getting out of here. And so it's like both him being hot and Asian, like, hot and Asian is still controversial for some fucking reason.
It is, and my favorite thing is that "sorry, neither" is actually a line written by Nichelle Nichols,
Oh, yeah.
and that's everyone's favorite line, and she wrote it.
Yes. No, she, like, knowing her perspective really changed the show for me. Because Ahura, again, also, because that show only has three main characters and everyone else is kind of sidelined, she doesn't get a lot, but, like, it does make it a lot more interesting because she does it, like, 110%, you know? She fucking is Ahura.
Yeah,
Fuck.
she's just the best.
Yes. Oh, God. Yeah, it's
And
like,
it really annoyed me because in POS, she gets this very natural relationship with Scotty, and then it's thrown away in the reboot just so she can be with Spock.
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
don't do it.
exactly. No, it's not right. It just feels wrong to me.
Initially I was offended because I think Burke should have been happening, but like,
Hmm.
she deserves to be with Scotty.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you there. I feel like there's more chemistry there too, and even with the actors, honestly, like that's kind of how I feel with the reboot actors too. I feel like there's more chemistry between uh Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine than than Zoe Saldana. Oh shit, shouldn't have said the actors' names. I fucked up.
Zoe Saldana.
Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, I feel you there. That's a really interesting one. Like that's one thing I feel weird about the remake movies. I feel like the oddly enough, like the only real pitfall they made was having Khan show up and having references to like the movies, like the original movies, because like then they had a something I could compare it to that they fucked up. Like with the original movie, I
Yeah,
liked.
and connecting them to a problem. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. It's perfect. That's what a conversation is. It's all good. Um, but yeah, no, I felt I like liked the first one, the first remake really a lot, but then but yeah, like because there wasn't, it was like it was sufficiently ridiculous and serious. Like like that one got a lot about Star Trek, even though like no, I guess the story it still is kind of Star Trekky. Like it reminds me of the episode where Spock shows up in Next Generation, where he's like it kind of has weirdly a similar vibe where it's like he's like doing like the plot is happening just outside of our purview, and then like the characters like investigate it and sort of piece it together. um I think that one's the closest they've kind of gotten to like trying to, especially since Star Trek is not a good, like it's more like a, it's more similar to science fiction literature than like movies. So it's like a weird, it's a weird one to try to make that, to make movies out of in the first place.
Okay, and you brought it up because
Oh, I brought it up because so there's an episode of Next Generation that I would love to talk about because it just like I had such a journey every time I saw it for like years um because of what it's about. So I think the episode is called The Outsider, where they go to a planet without gender. Um do you remember this one where like
oh god, okay.
yes, yes. Yes. And like as a naive pre as a naive pre-realization like before realizing I was trans as like a naive young liberal, I thought that like I was like, "Oh, this is such an interesting metaphor for homosexuality." And then when I watched it as like a newly out anxious genderqueer, I was like, "This is horrible." Like this is essentially saying like gender neutrality is fascist basically or like authoritarian in some way
Yeah,
or like
I hate that episode.
it's the
And
worst
that
one.
by being gender neutral, you just keep needing to be one gender or the other, and it's just like, please stop.
Yes, it's the worst. And that's the worst part about it is that like A, it's a Riker romance episode, which already says a lot, unfortunately. But like yeah, I feel like when they wrote it, they're like, "We did such a good job here," and like, I'm watching it now, and it's like, no, this is the worst one by far.
I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there's this one episode in Voyager that's in like season 1 or 2 that I hate,
Uh-huh.
and I cannot remember enough about it, but I will. We can talk about it later. But it drove me insane because it was basically saying that like it was saying something I did not like, and my brain is blanking.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah, it's funny. Talking about it more again, like as someone who's rewatched Next Generation specifically, a lot of times, like one time I noticed that like there's a lot of gender essentializing talk in the show. Like there's a lot of times in Next Generation specifically, and I think in Voyager and even Deep Space Nine as well, probably, where it's like they talk about men are like this and women are like that. And in Next Generation, they do a very sneaky thing where they always make a woman say it. They always have either Dr. Crusher or Deanna Troy or someone say this is what men are like and this is what women are like to sort of support their point. Be like, see, a woman is saying it.
And it's always like that, and it's upsetting.
Yeah, actually, interesting topic. So a funny side thing here. Oh, have you seen Enterprise?
Um. Oh, okay. It is. I remember what episode it
Oh,
is, and I
cool.
have seen Enterprise. Please tell me the Enterprise first.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, no. Well, this is a little more tangential, just because I just remembered and sort of can relate to also being polyamorous, and I was gonna say it's kind of like how polyamory is treated in Enterprise at the very beginning, because it's not really talked about too much, but the alien Dr. Phlox is polyamorous, and like the very first thing they say about it is like, well, humans aren't like that, and I'm just like, I have all of human
Sure.
history to look back on to prove you wrong, but okay.
Um,
And I feel like that's how they treat gender
yeah, and
nonconformity.
polyamory is supernatural to humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they treat all these things that come supernatural to humans and only stopped being quote unquote natural with white Christian influence,
Mm-hmm.
like just to call it as, and like it only stopped being natural because they started killing the people but doing it. Um,
Fucking A.
but
Yep. Yeah, pretty much all those negative like things were all just sort of means of justifying colonialism, like thinking about it, like shit. Polyamory, gender nonconformity, like because there's so many cultures have more than two genders. Like it's absurd that there are people who will in our society who will be like, "Oh, it's yeah, these are rigid boxes." And we're like, "No." Like simply not true. I mean, sex isn't even a rigid box.
it's not. And like advanced family units and extended family units are how people survived for the longest time until the nuclear family became what was profitable.
Right? Yeah.
And for Star Trek of all things to like really speaks to the poor thinking of the writers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's an unfortunate thing where cuz like ultimately, I don't know how much like diversity there is amongst like, or there was amongst like the Star Trek writers, because I feel like there isn't that much. I feel like there are like 7 people who write all the episodes, or like 12 people, you know what I mean, and they're all white probably. I'm just assuming. I might be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong.
By LeVar.
Oh, that's right, he directed. Oh, and he wrote some of them.
Yeah, and he wrote some of them, and all the best episodes, in my opinion, are like whenever I see LeVar Burton directed by LeVar Burton flash by, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good episode.
That is a great point. Like, I actually completely feel you there. He did. He was one of the better directors on the show. Holy shit, it's so true. Good shit. Data and Geordi, of course, also a classic ship. Science husbands, as my girlfriend calls them.
Very good. I did not like Tasha Yar in Data because I read Tasha Yar as queer,
Yeah, she's
and
a
I
butch
felt
woman.
the relationship with Data, and like it made me feel deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, it has
She's
that.
like all of a sudden I'm and I'm like, that feels like a plot hole.
Yeah. It's like you any way you read it, it's bad. It's like basically it's like the writer's no homo because she's a butch woman, and so they're like, okay, when she's drunk, she's into Data at least.
I mean, she's into Worf. We're all into Worf.
Oh, that's true. It's hard not to be. Oh, and in the Deep Space Nine episodes where you see him, where you just see Michael Dorn without the makeup, he's hot both ways.
He is.
That fucking voice too. It's really the voice really does it for me a lot of the time for him too. Like, because his character's kind of stilted and awkward, but sometimes he'll get like a good line where it's just like, "Oh, Worf."
Yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons I like. So yeah, Worf gets a lot of good attention, a lot of good episodes over time, but he has a great arc with his like wife who he has like a child with. Like all those episodes are really good and interesting how they like build off of each other. Um, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And then for the episode where he has to avenge his wife, and even Picard's like, it's fine. We understand.
Yeah. No, I love that. Basically, Picard is so supportive of Worf that he becomes an honorary member of Klingon society, and he's just like, I'm just supporting my coworker slash friend. Like, okay.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's good shit. But anyway, what was that Voyager episode? If you want to talk about it.
So there's the episode where um Seven of Nine is convinced that she had her Borg nanoprobes stolen by a man called Kovos, I believe, Corvus or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an awful episode
It's a what?
that just goes on to imply that women are liars and fakers,
Oh God.
and the innocent men are harmed false accusations, and I'm like, oh god, oh god,
Fuck. Yes. Yeah. No.
like it's just
Yeah, that was a doctor episode, was it?
no, he was a weapon salesman that she quote unquote accused.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, sorry, I just looked up the episode and the doctor is in the picture, and it reminded me about how much I liked the doctor as a kid, and every time I see it, or the EMH, I hate him more and more. And, like, it just gets worse as the show goes on. Like, unfortunately, Deep Space Nine and Voyager both have a similar issue, in my opinion, which is that the last season has a lot of dud episodes.
I'll let you know when I get there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We'll keep tabs for sure.
I'll tweet you about it, and I'll be like, hey, I just finished Voyager.
Good shit. Yeah, I actually look forward to it. Cause yeah, I feel like yeah, you'll probably have even more revulsion, but yeah, it's just fascinating how, like, for all its open-mindedness and like acceptance and its like attempts to be this like progressive imagining of the future, like they really avoid queer people like the plague. Like they really tried hard. Like even in Deep Space Nine, right? There's an episode where Jadzia Dax's like former lover shows up, and it turns out that they're a woman now, and it's like a huge issue. And it's like I actually have not watched it recently. I just realized I'd probably read it as being very trans misogynistic now that I think about it, because I could relate to her both as like as a queer trans woman, you know.
Actually, it was a beautiful episode. The
Oh.
like it was a beautiful episode in my opinion. It was like very romantic tension, and they were allowed to slowly build that tension, and that kiss was very like cathartic.
Oh shit. See, yeah, this is
But
where
the parents of the fans and the fans did not like that episode.
oh my god. Yeah, of course they didn't. No, thank you for reminding me there's like a kiss. Like, it's better than all the movies now that announce the gay character beforehand and then just to have an excuse not to show anything actually queer. You know, it's like back in the 90s, they were able to have just a gay kiss, just like, you know, not it was a big deal in the episode, but and big deal in real life, but like I think I agree with you. Like, that makes the episode so much better. And yeah, they do have a romantic tension. Like, I just wish that there could be more of that, you know?
Yeah.
More queers in space.
More queers in space.
Hell yes.
More polyamory in space.
Yes, polyamorous queers in space. Definitely. Good shit. I would watch that show. Oh my god. I would fucking watch that show in a minute. I'd be into it.
Right?
Yeah. And it's just a bunch of drama, like a lot of clothes swapping, stuff like that. Oh, God.
Jadzia Dax, I know you have my
Oh my god, yes. And the co-parenting stuff too. Oh my god, yes. Jadzia. Okay. So we've
my
done some...
God.
Sorry?
And the co-parenting stuff with Jadzia and Kira and Keiko is just top tier.
Yes. No, that's what I was gonna say. We've done OTPs, but who are our one-time polycules? Because, like, I feel like in Deep Space Nine is a good example where, like, the main cast could all basically be in one relationship, and it kind of would work.
Yeah, and I saw a post about that everyone on Deep Space Nine's in a relationship in some way, and then Sisko's the dad.
Yes, Sisko is
He's
the
not
dad.
in a relationship. He's his dad.
Yes. No, exactly. That's exactly kind of what I was thinking, too. Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. No, because that's what I was imagining is, like, the kind of shit that, like, Sisko and Jadzia, like, especially co-parenting. I feel like they already do. Actually, that's already a dynamic they have on the show.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, goddamn. That's a good one. That's a good show. Anyway. Okay, so, before we wrap up, since we have been talking for an hour, thank you so much for your time, by the way. I gotta know. Which one?
No, good to talk to you. This is a blast.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm enjoying myself. So
Which
yeah,
one what?
Which Star Trek is your number one? You must choose. It can be what you consider the best, or which one you love the most. But you can only pick one.
Okay, I have not finished this one yet, but I'm loving Voyager. I love Janeway.
Mm-hmm.
I know I get so much crap for this, but I love Janeway.
Yeah.
I think she's strong and smart and independent.
Yeah.
And I just love her.
No, she's great, and she's a scientist. Like that's my favorite scene. One of my favorite scenes in the whole show is at the very beginning when B'Elanna like is trying to prove herself as like to be chief engineer, and Janeway finishes her sentence. Like and gets all into like talking about like the engineering and the science of it, and that was like the moment where I was just like, ugh, I hope they get married someday.
Yeah. Janeway is my favorite captain. It's my favorite show. B'Elanna is one of my favorite characters ever.
Oh yes, yes. No, I love everyone on that show. Like I actually really like. I love that one. In fact, I will go so far to say I will put this on record because Next Generation is the one I love the most, but Voyager is the most consistent in quality because every other series has a bad season basically, except for the original doesn't really have a bad season if you watch it the right way. But yeah, Next Generation, you basically should start at season 3. You know, you could cut out the first 2 seasons and not lose that much, except for Tasha Yar, unfortunately. But like from a quality perspective, and
we lose her.
Yes, exactly. And Deep Space Nine, I feel like it has such momentum going into last season that like the baseball episode is where it really kills me. I'm like, you had like this plot going into the season, and now you're playing baseball. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But yeah. Voyager is very...
Personally, I really liked that they kept taking breaks from the main story because it gave us a chance to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was like, okay, can we get back to the story?
Yeah. I just feel like...
Oh, I see. If you're wondering, my rabbit just jumped up on my bed, said hello, and then I said hello to her, and she was like, goodbye.
Good, good. I was gonna say, I'm not gonna assume if you were talking to a person or an animal, but that's amazing.
It was my pet rabbit.
Good, good. Queer icon, insert your pet rabbit's name.
Her name is Princess Ariel.
Hey! That's beautiful. Does she go where the people are?
She avoids the people, incidentally. She's like introvert Ariel.
Oh, nice. Okay, okay. Okay, so she's one of those. Is she nice around like individuals?
No, she hates everyone but me.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, she's that kind of introvert. Oh, I relate too much to it. Poor rabbit. Poor Princess Ariel.
She likes me and some partners, and that's it.
Fuck. No, that's pretty funny. I haven't. It's been a long time since I've dated multiple people at the same time. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Like, if I brought a new partner over and like, if I had a cat, like, what they thought would like change my opinion. Like, if it was like the second or third date, and like my cat doesn't like them, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, unfortunately, I don't have a cat either to have that.
Nope. Like,
Sorry.
if my dog doesn't like somebody, I'm like,
Like, do you feel that way? That like,
if my rabbit doesn't like them, I'm like, it's fine.
right, they're a human. Yeah, I feel that way too. I feel like dogs have a really good sense of someone's threateningness. Cause like, I've in the last few years made a very conscious effort to be non-threatening, and like dogs have reacted exactly that way. Like, my mom and I were taking a walk one time, and this person's walking their dog, and the dog is just like totally silent as we pass, and they're like, "Wow, I'm kind of surprised." I'm like, "Yeah, we're not threatening people, you know? Like, we just like give off that vibe, I guess."
Yeah. Most dogs just run up and try to like get up on me, and I'm like, "Hello, nice to meet you."
They're like, "Oh, this person has treats."
No joke, I have treats in my purse 90% of the time. They're right.
They got your number.
I have switched to a smaller purse with less in it, but I usually have treats in my purse.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. I just like that a lot. Yeah, as someone who carries random stuff around in my own purse, I really like that. Like, you're always prepared for dogs.
Because I go to like pet friendly stores a lot, and I want to pet those dogs. So I'm like, do they want a treat?
Sorry, it's just good shit. I'm just like, that image is just so good.
Because other queer people are out there, they don't want to fucking talk to anybody, but they have their dog, and I'm like, hello.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's actually really interesting for that way too. Right? You like, it's another way to approach somebody. Like, not only are introverts drawn to like the animal at the party kind of vibe, but the same thing, if you get to know an introvert's animal, that's like an in, like a real easy in.
Yeah.
Or like you say, someone who like has anxieties or like has been mistreated because of being queer, or visibly queer or whatever. Yeah, having a very understandable mistrust of people.
It is my experience that one of the best ways to encounter queer people and get them to come up to you is to have like a rabbit or a chicken just with you. And they're like, what is that?
Specifically, a rabbit or a chicken?
Yeah, those are the two things that I've had the best luck with.
That's amazing. I mean, I get it. I get it. Especially as like a video game nerd, like the chicken is so appealing. Like, I like, you know what I mean? It just like, I feel it. I feel it. I've never been in that circumstance, but yeah.
We went to Target recently with our chicken, and my wife was standing outside the cafe with the chicken so I could grab coffee, and she had like 3, 4, 5 people come up to her wanting to pet the
Right.
chicken.
Right, yeah, because like, I think the reason, right, is because most people don't see a chicken in their real life. Like, I don't know how many times, I probably could count on one hand how many times I've seen an actual chicken, and like, they're so fluffy in real life.
Oh yeah, and this chicken, Dr. Beverly Clucker.
Hey! Amazing. Oh, thank you so much.
Is very friendly and very sweet. and she's the softest chicken in the world.
Amazing.
And she loves being handled.
That's awesome. Holy shit. I was already having a good day, and that just brightened my day.
I also have Lieutenant Neoda, and Ensign Rolaren.
Oh, shit! Amazing. I love it so much. Yeah, the best I got is I got some of those old action figures from when I was a kid, so I've got Guinan watching over me on my bookshelf. And old Picard from the last episode
That's so fun!
Oh, yeah. And yeah, an old Farmer Picard from the last episode of Next Generation. Which is so
Nice.
specific, yeah. It's funny, too, I'm, like, running out of them, because that's been my thing for, like, my adult life, is, like, whenever I'm really close to somebody, I give them a Star Trek action figure. That's, like, how I show that, like, we're really close. You know, like, I've only given them to people who I, like, was in serious relationships with, like, my best friend, people like that, you know?
That's amazing.
Thanks, yeah. No, and yeah, a really nerdy thing as well, this one, too. I used to carry around a Q in my, backpack, because if like multi-dimensional theory is true, if like every possible universe exists, then Q exists, and if Q exists, Q can transcend dimensions, because that's like one of their things, and so it's like a weird like pseudo-religious totem, you know. It's really bizarre.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, but that was definitely my vibe for a while. It's funny too, just thinking about it though, because he's like the embodiment of chaos and like entitlement. So it's like a funny person to evoke, but like it's like the episode where Picard almost dies and Q like shows him his life. It's like, you know, Picard questions whether it's really Q or not, and I'm like, I don't know that it isn't. Like, I feel like Q could do both.
Yeah.
Anyway, I should wrap this up because I will have to edit this later. But thank you so much for talking to me, Mayim. Do you have anything you'd like to plug to the general people, the podcast listeners?
Follow me on Twitter. I'm Rainbow Mayim. I am currently doing a fundraiser for a local hospital to give Jewish literature and comforting text to patients at a mental hospital. Yeah. That's
Awesome.
my only big thing going on right now.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I fully hope you support that. Yeah, again, thank you so much. This was such a lovely conversation, and I look forward to talking to you again about Star Trek. I think this is like we could even go like into more specifics if you're interested. But anyway, podcast over. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Gender Non-Conforming Chat on Chaos Public Radio. I would like to thank Mayim Esther at Rainbow Mayim. Please consider supporting their hospital and following them on Twitter. That is how we found each other. I'd just like to give another special hoo-woo to Lily /@MothCub for the amazing logo art for the show. Please consider supporting the channel on Patreon and Ko-fi, both at Chaos Public Radio, and follow us on Twitter at Chaos Radio Cast.